Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 8 Text number 19.
I actually wrote 20 on the board.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That's the one with the purport.
That's the one with the purport. Okay. So I'll do 19 first, but again, there's no glasses.
There's some glasses here on the stove.
Somebody can bring those over, you know. See if they work. Okay, that'll be good. Okay. Text number 19. Tatvanam prarisankyanam lakshanam hetu lakshanam purusharadana vidire yogasyadyatmikasya cha Tatvanam parisankyanam lakshanam hetu lakshanam purusharadana vidir yogasyadyatmikasya cha. Translation, please repeat. Kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation. The number of such elementary principles. Their causes. Their development. And also the process of devotional service. And the method of mystic power. Okay, text number 20. Please repeat. Yogeshvarashvarya Gatir Yogeshvarashvarya Gatir Yogeshvarashvarya Gatir Linga Banga to Yoginam and Linga Bangas to Yoginam and Linga Bangas to Yoginam Vedopa Veda Dormana Vedopa Veda Dormana Vedopa Veda Dormana Itihasa Purana Yo Itihasa Purana Yo Itihasa Purana Yo Yogeshvarya Gatir and Linga Bangas to Yoginam Vedopa Veda Domana Itihasa Purana Yogeshvarya Gatir Linga Bangas to Yoginam Vedopa Veda Domana Itihasa Purana Yogeshvarya Gatir Linga Bangas to Yoginam Vedopa Veda Domana Itihasa Purana
Yogeshvarya Gatir
Yogeshvarya
Lingabhangastu yoginam.
Lingabhangastu yoginam.
Vedopaveda dharmanam.
Vedopaveda dharmanam.
Itihasa puranayo.
Itihasa puranayo. Lingabhangastu yoginam. Vedopaveda dharmanam. Itihasa puranayo. Lingabhangastu yoginam. Vedopaveda dharmanam. Itihasa purayano. Yogeshvara Isvarayagatir. Lingabhangastu yoginam. Lingabhangastu yoginam. Vedopaveda dharmanam. Vedopaveda dharmanam. Itihasa puranayo. Itihasa puranayo. Yogeshvara Ishvaraya Gatir.
Yogeshvara Isvarayagatir.
Lingabhangastu yoginam.
Lingabhangastu yoginam.
Vedopaveda dharmanam.
Vedopaveda dharmanam.
Itihasa puranayaha.
Itihasa puranayo. Please repeat. Yoga Ishvara.
Yoga Ishvara.
Of the master of the mystic powers.
Of the master of the mystic powers.
Aishvarya.
Aishvarya.
Opulent.
Opulence.
Gati.
Gati.
Advancement.
Advancement.
Linga.
Linga.
Astral body.
Astral body.
Bhanga. Detachment.
Detachment.
To.
But.
Yoginam. Of the mystic.
Of the mystic.
Veda. Transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
Upaveda. Knowledge, knowledge in pursuance.
Knowledge in pursuance.
Of the Veda.
Of the Veda.
Indirectly.
Indirectly.
Dharmana. Of the religiosity.
Of the religiosity.
Itihasa.
History.
Puranayaha. Of the Puranas. Translation. What are the opulences of the great mystics, and what is their ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic become detached from subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and the supplementary Puranas? Please repeat. What are the opulences?
What are the opulences
of the great mystic?
Of the great mystics.
And what is their ultimate realization?
And what is their ultimate realization?
How does the perfect mystic become detached?
How does the perfect mystic become detached
from the subtle astral body?
From the subtle astral body.
What is the basic knowledge?
What is the basic knowledge
of the Vedic literatures?
Of the Vedic literatures.
Including the branches of history.
Including the branches of history.
And the supplementary Puranas.
And the supplementary Puranas.
Srila Prabhupada's divine purport. Ki Jai. The Yogeshwar, or the mystic, or the master of mystic powers, can exhibit icons of wonders of perfection by becoming smaller than the atom or lighter than a feather, getting anything and everything he desires, going anywhere in everywhere he likes, creating even a planet in the sky, etc. There are many Yogeshwaras having different proficiencies and these wonderful powers. And the topmost of all of them is Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest yogi, and he can perform such wonderful things, far beyond the ordinary living beings. The devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, do not directly practice the process of mystic powers, but by the grace of the Lord, his devotees can defeat even a great Yogeshwar like Dhruvasa Muni, who picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish and wanted to show the wonderful achievements of his mystic powers. Maharaj Ambarish was a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus, without any effort on his part, the Lord saved him from the wrath of Yogeshwara Dhruvasa Muni. And the latter was obligated to beg pardon from the king. Similarly, at the time of Draupadi's precarious position, when she was attacked by the Kurus, who wanted to see her naked in the open assembly of the royal order, the Lord saved her from being stripped by supplying an unlimited length of sari to cover her. And Draupadi knew nothing of mystic powers. Therefore, the devotees are also Yogeshwaras by the unlimited power of the Lord, just as a child is powerful by the strength of the parents. They do not try to protect themselves by any artificial means, but are saved by the mercy of the parents. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the learned Brahmana Sukadeva Goswami about the ultimate destination of such great mystics, or how they attain such extraordinary powers by their own efforts or by the grace of the Lord. He inquired also about their detachment from the subtle and gross material bodies. He inquired also about the purport of the Vedic knowledge. It's stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15, the whole purport of all the Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become a transcendental, loving servant of the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 20th sloka, 2nd canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 8, questions by King Parikshit. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanandi. Om Agnati Mirandasya Giranjana Shilakaya Kachun Militam Yena Tadmai Shri Gurve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, although they were shut by the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Of course, our main points here are all about the mystic yoga system, the mystic yogis, and the supreme mystic Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all mystic powers. And also about how the pure devotee of the Lord, simply by the power of bhakti yoga, without any extraneous effort into mysticism, is completely protected by the Supreme Master mystic powers and the master of all other masters of mystic powers, even Lord Shiva himself. And finally, Prabhupada briefly discussed the knowledge of the Vedas, and as well as the histories and the supplementary Puranas. It's an interesting, I don't know if it's an analogy or a metaphor or what, but Prabhupada, how he makes that comparison, how the devotees are protected by the Lord just like children are protected by their parents. I'm sure everybody has a practical example when your parents got you out of the jam. Everybody probably had such an experience, unless you were really do-goody, and were always simply bringing nothing but honor and fame and beauty onto them. Sometimes there are such children, but it certainly wasn't me. So it's a really wonderful comparison, actually, because children are children, and especially in Kali Yuga, everyone is born a Sudra, which means we're in darkness. We don't necessarily understand the absolute truth or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like a dog, we may be trained to go to a place of worship or perform some yoga postures like that. Just like they can train a parrot to speak, we may recite some prayers. But there's generally no realization because we're so dark. We're so dark because we're so much into enjoying our body and our life. And we don't want to, that's the only thing on our mind, generally speaking. If you're a real kid born in the mode of passion. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who die in the mode of passion, they take their birth on the earth amongst fruited workers. And fruited worker means somebody whose only interest is in the fruits of his work. He works really well, and he works really good, and he works really hard, but he's interested in tasting that fruit. And you can cite unlimited examples simply from all the people around us, popular people, famous people, from athletes to politicians. They're just really into their life and enjoying the fruits of their work. And that's what life was all about for them. And Krishna fulfills the desire of each and every soul. Man proposes, Prabhupada used to quote, and God disposes. So that's a fruited work. But Prabhupada gives the comparison of birds in a tree. So there's one bird in a tree, and he's simply eating the fruits of that tree. Like we have those Japanese plums, those yellow fruits with the big seeds in them, and those green trees. And so this one bird will be just eating those fruits and enjoying it. And that's compared to souls that are simply in the modes of material nature, and they're completely involved in enjoying the fruits of this material world. And there's another bird in the tree, and that is the Paramatma, or the super soul. And the super soul isn't interested in enjoying the fruits, but he's just there to witness the activities of the fruitive workers, or the souls that are absorbed in fruitive consciousness. And just waiting and perhaps giving a hint to them that, this isn't reality. This is very temporary and will ultimately be displeasing to you. He's just waiting for that soul to somehow ever catch a glimpse of that hint that he may occasionally witness is our consciousness, the deepest consciousness within us. And when that soul somehow ever turns its face from those fruits to the face of the Lord, then the situation can change. Until then, it's not possible. That is one reason why the mode of goodness is better for spiritual life than the mode of passion, because in the mode of passion, there's just unlimited longings and desires and great, tremendous effort to fulfill them. So there's tremendous attachment. You know, they don't know failure. All they know is, you know, the taste of victory. And they'll pursue it with every ounce of strength in their body and mind. But in the mode of goodness, there's some enlightenment. You know, there's a little bit of enlightenment. Prabhupada compares it to a spark of fire that falls on some dry leaves. And it flares up. So in the mode of goodness, you know, we have a little enlightenment. You know, we can understand the basic thing that, you know, I'm not this body. You know, everybody's body is dying and they're going somewhere. You know, and that is actually the quest of life. To understand, you know, exactly who I am in this body. Where am I going at the time of death? Where did I come from? You know, who's in control of all of this? And, you know, what happens to the people who simply create a disturbance and harm and hurt others? Why do people suffer? You know, and why do people simply immerse themselves in enjoyment that Srila Prabhupada would compare to a very nice, succulent food preparation that, you know, everyone just can't wait to sink their teeth into. And then you find out that actually somebody oversalted it, or it has sand in it. And then the whole taste is ruined. So in the same way, everybody's enjoying this world to the ultimate extent, and then it's just ripped away. It's just torn away. Did we like it when that thing happened to us? Everybody perhaps can remember. It's all happened to all of us in some form or another. Something that you love very dearly. It's just torn away. So that's like the sand in the food. So that's how that's how the taste is of this material world. You know, that fruitive worker, you know, they strive and they achieve some victory, but then in the end it's somehow ever taken away. You know, you think you'll be remembered, and nobody remembers you after a few generations. Yeah, maybe a name in a record book that it ultimately declines. So, you know, that to simply live for the body is ignorance. You know, that we'll run, we'll do anything to try to maintain our health, just anything. While Prabhupada would compare it to a bird in a cage, and the owner does nothing but clean that cage all the time, and chirp to the bird, and talk to the bird, and want to have a relationship with the bird, but somehow ever is so stupid that they never feed the bird. And the bird dies, of course. So in the same way, here we are, keeping the health of the body. You know, we're putting on the best lotions. We use the best soap. We find the best toothpaste, most organic thing. You know, we want only the purest water to shower our dear body with, while the soul dies, because it never takes the opportunity to hear about Krishna or to chant about Krishna. It never takes the opportunity to discipline itself. That is the fault in human society. Everyone is wrongly trained. No one is taught properly. In the Vedic system, the kids would give up everything and serve the lotus feet of the guru like they were everything. They would beg from door to door and would not be attached to what they were given and bring it home to the spiritual master. None of them owned a dime, even if their parents were rich, and they learned to live like that. Near mama, nothing is mine. And that way they develop some detachment from the very thing that causes us pain. And so then later when they were married, they can never forget what they learned because they were properly trained. And they never become super attached. They only become duty bound. As Krishna teaches in the Gita, do your duty, Arjuna. It's better than, not doing any work. Of course, ultimately he teaches, do your duty for me. Any duty can be done for Krishna and achieve perfection. He says that also. So that is how people are meant to be trained. But no one is trained like that. We're taught from the very beginning. You got to do good, so that you have a good job, and you can support everyone, including yourself, and you'll bring fame to your family. Don't become, simply a ditch digger. Go to school, get an education, do something with your life. At least become a hero. Do something for the sake of your family's name. All the time the bird's dying in the cage because it doesn't know itself. Here we are trying to think that everything is about this world and about my reputation in this world and about what I achieve in this world. They make kids suicidal because they simply emphasize achievement. As though that's all about, gaining something great in this world. When really it's just about knowing who we are. And when you find out, I'm not this body. I was never this body. I'm an eternal being within the body. And Krishna makes it easy for me, to get something better than this body. I just have to develop some patience and self-control and tolerance. I have to learn to tolerate my anger, my lust, and my greed. Learn to control it by placing it at the lotus feet of Krishna, the spiritual master. What do you want me to do today, Gurudev? Oh, you don't want me to eat? And that's how it was in the Brahmachari ashram. If the Guru didn't call you to eat, you didn't eat. You didn't go buy a bag of potato chips and eat. You didn't have money to buy a bag of potato chips and eat. It was the Guru's money. The perfect example is Krishna and Sudama Brahmana, Vipra. The spiritual master's wife, ordered them to go collect wood in the forest. And they did it. And by Krishna's arrangement, everything became dark, very dark, unprecedentedly before the sun had set. Because a huge storm had come in, which made them cold. And so much rain came down that it made them cold. They had to take shelter in a tree, and it was like that all night long. So in the morning, when the spiritual master realized they hadn't returned to the ashram, he went out to find them. And when he found them, he blessed them. They went through such a struggle just to satisfy him. So, that was life of training. proper training. The spiritual master doesn't only train one in what his occupation will be, but he trains one to develop a spiritual character, a good character. Devotees are not to develop a material character, a demoniac character, where we're very proud of ourselves, to the point of conceit and arrogance even. We're to speak about becoming harsh and angry when people don't listen to us. Or just completely ignorant because we're so much into our body. Oh, I have such a wonderful this and a wonderful that. Look at my car. Well, you know, all these things, you know. So, you know, we're not supposed to develop that type of nature. You know, one's supposed to develop simplicity and humility. Those are the things Krishna considers knowledge. I mean, even Lord Chaitanya, what was his big emphasis? You know, we're such fools and rascals in this age. We should think of ourselves as lower than the straw in the street in all humility. I'm no better than the straw in the street. And I should know that more than anyone else. I mean, everybody else sees everybody else's faults. But more than you can see my fault, my God, you would think I would know it. I should understand my faults better than everyone else because I've lived through them. I know what my failures are. I know the things that I've done wrong. I should, unless I just cover them over with all sorts of, what do they call that? Rationalization. You know, I rationalized that it was his fault that I acted like that. It was his fault that I got angry. I blame it on them because it was their fault. The teachers didn't educate me. You know, my mama didn't correct me. My old man was a fool. They gave me too much. They spoiled me. It's always somebody else's fault. That's the problem, one of the problems in life. But Lord Chaitanya says, no. You're lower than the straw in the street. You know what they do with straw in the street? They throw it on the dung in the street. I mean, they didn't have cars back then. They had draft animals. And the draft animals sometimes passed and they got on the road if they didn't have that sack behind them. So then you throw some straw on it. And you know what to speak about being tolerant. You know, not that I get bugged by every little minor offense that somebody makes. You know, Lord Chaitanya says, no more tolerant than a tree, to the extent, you know, we read, some months ago, not long ago, some weeks ago, how Lord Chaitanya tolerated Ramachandra Puri, his spiritual master's godbrother, who was a big critic and fault finder, and criticized everyone. Even found fault in how much Lord Chaitanya ate and criticized him because there were some ants in the room. That was proof that he was eating too much. Too many sweets here. Look at the ants. What did Lord Chaitanya do but tolerate it? He actually did what he suggested. He cut down his eating. It became intolerable to the other devotees to see the Lord eating so little. No longer could they invite him and feed him so nicely because of his Ramachandra Puri, who they dared not talk ill about in front of the Lord because that's his spiritual master's godbrother. You know that. So Lord Chaitanya didn't only teach it by precept, but by example. That's an acharya. One who teaches by example, not just precept. You know, give a lesson, prepare a lesson. But the realization comes from having to follow the lesson yourself. Like the old story, I think even Prabhupada spoke the story, of the lady who dragged her son to the sadhu and said he's eating too many sweets. He's going to be obese. Sadhu said, all right, bring him back next week. So she drags him back next week. Sadhu says, quit eating all those sweets. You're going to kill yourself. She said, that's all you're going to do? Why didn't you do it last week? I came here, you could have did the same thing. He said, no, I couldn't. I was still eating sweets myself. So, we have to, if we want to develop ourselves, we have to train ourselves. Especially when you're older. No one else is going to bother because it's a pain to try to bend old wood. So, the burden kind of falls on ourselves. But the young people, they have to be trained. And so you go to any academic school, any military school, you go in the military. It's all young people with older people training them. Because the older people already went through it. That's why, it's expected that a person does this and does that. And then you see they come back maybe some years later and they want to join. Well, you ever try to go join the military when you're 40? So, well, sorry, we can't take you, because you're not as in shape as you were when you were 20. This is only suited for young people. So if you're going to take shelter in ISKCON, you better do it when you're young. Because it doesn't get easier when you're older. You probably won't even get in the door because there's not a place for senior citizens. You have to come back with some money and buy your way in. So, you have to take advantage. People are lucky to get in the door. They're lucky. The door swings both ways. And most people leave. It's not unusual. Just like most people leave the military. Not most, but a certain percentage don't get through the boot camp. But the greater percentage don't last more than 4 years. And a lot of times they have to give them early retirement because they're not just that valuable. And to become an officer, you have to go to officer school. So, it's the same thing, to join a spiritual society. It's just not a place for people to come and lounge around. It's a Brahminical society. And there are Brahmins, not military officers, that are teaching people you have to get up early. If you don't get up early now, you're not going to get up early later. It doesn't work like that. You have to train yourself now. And if you become trained, then you can set the example. If you're going to train others. And if you can't train others, then the door swings both ways. You better go buy some property where you have some independence. Because otherwise you're stuck in an institution that's trying to teach something. And if you can't teach it, the door swings both ways like it does everywhere else. I mean, you ever try to be a professor in a university and you can't teach the subject? The door swings both ways. They let you go. In any ordinary place of business, if you can't do the job, the door swings both ways. They let you go. They're not going to keep paying you. So we have to, that responsibility is great, but the achievement of the devotees is even greater than the achievement of the mystic yogis, with the speak of fruitive workers. I mean, fruitive workers, they're trying to enjoy their senses, but the mystic yogis, you know, you ever try to become smaller than an atom? Or lighter than a feather? Or to get anything you want, anywhere, at any time? I mean, that's what every person would love to enjoy, those types of powers. But you know, they're not given away to every fruited worker. The fruited workers generally have to learn how to earn it through the sweat of their brow, or the smartness of their brain, or the might of their arms, whatever. You know, but the mystic yogis, I mean, that's, they practice all those austerities and yoga and breathing exercises and all that stuff. You know, to gain what, the more than what the fruited workers could aspire for. But the devotees achieve all these things automatically. Srila Prabhupada would say, they're envious because we have some vehicles and nice temple. And all we say, well, move in with us. They won't do that, but they're envious of it. Because, Krishna has supplied it for the devotees to use in his service. So it's a wonderful thing to become a devotee. But becoming a devotee means, that we develop that extraordinary spiritual character exemplified by Lord Chaitanya and his disciples, the Goswamis, on down the line all the way to Prabhupada. Our Prabhupada, and then you see it in most of Prabhupada's disciples to various degrees. Where they are trying to surrender something, to do something to please Prabhupada. And their disciples. I mean, that's what it means to be a disciple. That, we have to surrender. It's the best dharma. There's no other dharma. Krishna says, give up all the other dharmas. Give them up. They're not worth it. Just surrender to me. Have a good time. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to think about anything. Mana, you just think of me. Bhagavad Bhakto, you don't have to be a devotee of the Atlanta Falcons or the Chicago Bulls or, this wonderful musician or this great mathematician, whomever it may be. Be my devotee. And then, no one in this world knows how to worship the Lord. No one, practically speaking. 7-8 billion people. And there's a few 100,000 that know something about worshiping the Lord. Maybe there's some Hindus and Christians that have some ritualistic practices. But what Krishna is interested in is the pure devotional service. How one offers incense. Or how one offers a ritual. Is it with love and devotion? Or is it with, simply, being the representative of an institution that has to, present to the public how God is so elaborately and nicely worshipped? So, it's incumbent upon us, to learn to worship the Lord nicely so we can inspire others, teach others. I mean, everybody has to learn. So we can take any kid and teach them. It's not a difficult process. But we have to learn it ourselves. And then, what to speak of offering obeisances, I mean, people, they don't, in the military, you stand at attention, you give the salute. And you have to do that, as long as you're there. You have to learn how to show the proper respect to the commanding officer. Unless he somehow ever lets you off. Hey, don't bother about it. We're in the middle of something here. Or whatever, But otherwise, here we come in, we have to offer obeisances to Krishna. We can't become so familiar with the spiritual master or Krishna, or even the spiritual master's representative. As strange as that may sound, it may be our ordinary Prabhus. You know, that we have to offer obeisances to. Srila Prabhupada would say we're offering obeisances to the Prabhu in the heart. Therefore we say Prabhu. Because it's not only Joe Blow sitting there, but it's, it's Paramatma. You know, the life of all that lives. I mean, why did that, we were talking about that Mugari the hunter. I mean, the funny thing, when Narada went to visit him with his friend, can't remember his name, he's famous for writing all those astrology books.
Parvat Muni.
Parvat Muni, yeah. So, Parvat Muni said, why is he dancing like that? And so he said, why are you dancing like that? He said, I don't want to step on the ants. So they thought it was funny. Here he was, Mugari, the guy who just enjoyed seeing pain. He enjoyed giving pain to others. He would just enjoy making you hurt. And now he could no longer give pain to even an ant after becoming a devotee. So, we have to see that Krishna is the life of all that lives. Mugari learned that, and he wasn't an educated fella. He was, as bad as a serial killer. He may not have done it to humans, but he did it to animals in a very vicious and heinous way. But yet, he learned on a realization even greater than academicians sitting around that learn and never really learn. They never really learn that to see the Paramatma in everyone's heart. They never ever learn to see Krishna everywhere, to see everything in relation to Krishna. They're still seeing things in relation to their country, their world, their family, their very own self. But they don't understand the real self and its relationship with the super self. That, even though they may read it, it doesn't really have any meaning like it has for a devotee. So, but Mugari, he learned it because he listened to his spiritual master. I mean, if we don't do that, then our life gets spoiled. If I don't listen to Srila Prabhupada, I decide, I'm going to go, drink a beer. And watch the Super Bowl. It's no harm. Not hurting anyone. Then, gradually, you become covered over. You're entering into a way of life, into a mode of nature that changes you into that type of person. The little bitty soul cannot be aloof from the Lord's powerful external energy. If we affiliate with it, we become covered with it. It's only by the grace of the spiritual master who knew how to serve Krishna. It was all speculative. Oh, I'm doing this for God and I'm doing that for God. I'm a servant of, my Lord and Master Jesus Christ or Allah or whoever it may be, Buddha. And I'm doing this for them and I'm doing that for them. What? What are you doing for them? Oh, I'm singing their glories. Oh yeah? How do you serve them? Just by doing that? I mean, have you accomplished anything? Are people listening to you? Are people following you? Are they all becoming detached? Are they becoming sadhus, saintly persons? Or are they all just making an ordinary living and dealing with the stress and the strifes of life? Trying to stumble through the trials and tribulations. Sometimes cussing and cursing. They're so upset and bothered by everything. But, Srila Prabhupada, he engaged in Krishna's service. He was able to take fools and rascals. and engaged them in God's service, because he knew what God wanted, and he engaged them. And by listening to the spiritual master, one can make some advancement. Not by not listening. Anyway, it's past the time, and I'll just start repeating myself, as I probably already have. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, well, today's Ekadasi, don't forget.
You said so many things about training, and you know very well nowadays when somebody comes in, they come with an agenda and they tell us what they want to do. So how,
Right.
as you just told me yesterday about this individual, how do you deal with that?
Oh, it just has to be strict, that's all. That's all. I mean, people have to know, well, if you want to come here, it means this. If you get one of those crummy old rooms in the barn, it means this. You're not paying for it. If you want to come and give donations, fine. But, you can't buy your way into the barn just with money, because it requires a certain thing. Like we had that boy here one time whose dad kicked him out of the house, came from a rich family, a local guy, and they were all just typical local country, southern Mississippi people, that the father had money and kid had money, but they kicked him out, and my kids were in school and they were like their school friends. So they gave him a place to stay, but he was having such a hard time not eating meat, And so he couldn't stay because of that. He had to leave because of that. But he still needed money, so one time he came in and gave one of my kids his brand new shotgun, still in the case and everything, for $20 or something, He was so desperate. James was his name.
Yes.
James. They just couldn't make it. Then we had that other fellow who came all the way from Montgomery, filled out the forms, did the background check and all that. Was working with Maharani at the restaurant. He seemed really strict, and he had a little bit of a brain, so he would study Sanskrit. One day he just flipped, and he became a Muslim and started studying Arabic. We're still trying to hang around the temple, but it'd stay away from the chanting. And we knew he only had a limited amount of time left, So eventually he left. I can't remember his name. He was actually in a picture where the newspaper came and took a picture of a restaurant and all. And he was serving out or washing dishes or something. Something like monk. It started with an M or something. So it's not many who can actually stay and follow,
You remember that guy Chance from New Orleans?
Chance?
I think that's his name. He got into a fight here with somebody. He is all really good, did a lot of service, but in the night he changes. He puts on his army clothes and goes inside the jungle to do his marijuana thing until he found out.
Oh God, you would have
Remember that? Remember him? We have so many different
How about
types.
Nick? And then we had Nicholas. Nicholas always wants to come back. He was like a well-built.
That's who it is.
Some
Nicholas.
one thing.
Yeah.